Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make some cards using the Stampin' Up piercing kit. Now I've got these characters that I cut using the ScanNCut, and this is the Snail Mail Designer Series paper, and I've got a tray of them with quite a few different shapes in them. So I'll leave a link to that video, how I fussy cut those shapes from Designer Series paper, at the end of this video. So I want to incorporate those, and I also want to use the piercing kit. So as I say, I'm going to be making customer thank you cards for people that shopped with me in March in my Stampin' Up shop. I've got this idea in my head, quite a simple idea. I've done something very similar to this before, so I just thought I'd take you through the process. So if you don't know what the piercing kit is, basically you get, in the kit, you get two piercing tools, a 0.4mm tip and a 0.8mm tip. That's the actual kind of like needle that's in the tool. And then you get the holder. You get this mat. It's very sticky. You not only pierce, but you can cut on this mat. Not for everyday cutting, but if you're piercing a design that you then want to cut out, like I'm going to be doing today, then you do it all on this one mat. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring in a piece of A4 cardstock. This is Stampin' Up Blushing Bride. I sell this in my Stampin' Up shop, and I'm just going to put it onto the mat in readiness for the first shapes I'm going to put on here. Now I do have to make quite a lot of these cards, but I'm not going to sit and make you go, watch me make the whole stack of them. I'll make a couple, put them together, and then I'll show you them all at the end. So I'm going to flick over to the ScanNCut machine, and I'm going to load this mat. Okay, so I'm going to come into the basic shapes, into the first section, and I'm going to scroll down and find a basic star. So this is the one I'm going to use. It's BA-A073. I'm going to make the height 5.5 inches. And then I'm going to select maintain aspect ratio, because I want to make the width wider but leave the height at 5.5. So I'm going to make the width 6.25. I'm going to say I want 2 and click set. Now I've already done a background scan, but I'll just do it again. So I'll press start. And I'm just going to position the 2 stars on this piece of card. So with one of them selected, so I'm just going to try something. I'm going to go to edit. I'm going to use this box and select everything that's on the mat and say OK. Then I'm going to go into object edit and group. Then I'm going to hit the offset icon and make a minus 0.06 offset, which should be on the inside. I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to click the piercing icon, turn the dot line on, and I've made my dot spacing 0.075. I've been playing with this before I decided to record this video, so I've just increased the dot spacing to 0.075, and I'm going to say OK. I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to go in to the magnifying glass, and I've got the wrong bit as the dot line, so I'm going to say OK, object edit, turn the dot line off, and then I'm going to go OK. Use this arrow, which should hopefully now select the inside line, go to Object Edit, turn the piercing tool back on and say OK. OK. I'm going to zoom in, and now I'm going to zoom into 400%. I don't know how well you're going to see this. See if I can move this over. But the inside line that I set at minus 0.06 is the dash line, and the outside line is the cut line, and that's what I want. So I'm going to say OK, OK, OK. I'm going to select Pierce and just make sure everything's OK. So I'm going to select Pierce, and that looks correct. That looks like it's only going to do 2 stars. I'm also just going to go back and select Cut and make sure it can see the cut line, and it can. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is do the piercing. So please select, scroll down, choose Pierce. I'm going to bring in the piercing holder and the piercing tool, and I'm using the 0.8 millimeter. So I'm just going to pull the end off, unscrew the lid on the holder, and with the brother logo looking at me, I'm going to insert the piercing tool again with the number looking at me. Then I'm just going to pop the lid on, take the blade out, put this now into where the blade holder goes, like so. So I've just took the blade out, pop this in, lock it into place. Then I'm going to come back to the screen and I'm going to say start. So it's going to take the card in and it's going to start piercing the 2 stars. So I may just fast forward this bit. Okay, so that's finished cutting. So I'm going to say OK. I'm not going to unload the mat. I'm just going to take the piercing tool out of the machine and put my blade in. Then I'm just going to come back to the screen, and then I'm going to select, please select, because that takes you back a page. And now I'm going to choose Cut and Start. And it should now cut around the outside of the stars. Okay, so that's finished cutting. So I'm going to say OK. I'm going to hit the home button and say yes, it's okay to delete all the patterns. And I'm just going to unload the mat. You might see it better if I turn the mat this way. Now it's just caught a bit of my card down there, but it's not a problem because I'm going to be chopping these in half anyway. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn the mat over and release the mat from the card. I just find it's easier if you do it that way and it doesn't make your card curl or distort. So now I'm going to turn them back over to the right side. I'm going to zoom you in to see if you can see. I will try and zoom in a bit more for you. But this has now done the piercing line and then cut around the outside. And what it does on this mat, it cuts in like sections. So it puts like little pips on your card. So you think it's not cut through, but it has. So basically what you need to do is just pop the little pips that are holding the shape in place. Just work your way around. I'm going to be cutting some more shapes in a minute and I'm going to show you an alternative way. So you should now be able to see the piercing line and then obviously the cut line around the outside. So just pull this other one out quickly. So there are my 2 stars with my piercing and my cut line. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to take you back to the machine and show you an alternative way, and I'm going to cut some circles. So I'm just going to load a piece of white card onto this mat, which you'll see in a minute, and I'm just going to rub it down, load it into the machine. Okay, so I'm going to come into the basic shapes, into and find a circle. I'm going to make this circle 2.25 inches, and I'm going to say set. And I'm just going to bring it into the middle of the screen in the hope that you can see it better. So with the stars, I made the star at the size I wanted, and then I did an inward offset and used a minus figure. But if you want to do it the opposite way, you can do. So I've got a 2.25 inch circle, so a 2¼ inch circle. I'm going to go into Edit, Object Edit, and I'm going to make that a pierce line. So I'm going to turn the dot line on, leave the spacing at 0.075 and say OK. Now I'm going to come to offset, and I'm going to make an offset of 0.13, and I'm going to say OK. I'm going to say OK again to get to the arrows, and I can see that it's the offset that's selected. I want the outer circle. So I'm going to use this arrow to get to the outer circle. I'm going to go to Object Edit, go to dot spacing and make sure it's off, because the 2¼ inch circle in the middle I want to be pierced, but the circle I've applied to the outside, if I go to the size, which is now 2½ inches, because I applied an offset of 0.13, and what it does, it applies the offset to all sides. So I started off with 2.25 and I added an offset of 0.13, and it's added it to all sides. So that now means that my circle on the outside is 2½ inches, and that's the one I want to cut. So I'm just going to say OK, OK, and I'm going to zoom in and make sure I've got what I think I should be getting. So I'm going to zoom into 400, and you can see the outside line is a solid line, so that means it's going to cut, and the inner line is the dot line, and that's exactly what I want. So I'm going to use the 3 red boxes and select everything and just move this up a little bit. I'm going to say OK, Object Edit, Group, and then I'm going to say give me 2. I'll just do 2 for now. I'm going to ungroup them. I'm going to say OK, OK, and I'm going to do exactly the same. So I'm going to take the blade out, put the piercing tool back in. I'm going to stick with the same piercing tool. You can play around with this, use the different side piercing tool, use a different dot spacing. It's entirely up to you. I'm just going to do a background scan and say start. I'm going to go to OK, OK, select, scroll down and find pierce, and hopefully it's going to pierce the 2 inner circles, and then I'm going to cut them. So I'm going to say start. So that's finished cutting. I'm going to say OK. I'm not going to unload the mat. And then this time I'm going to say please select, and I'm going to choose cut. I'm going to take the piercing tool out and put my blade in, and I'm just going to press start on the screen, and it should now cut them. Now Okay, it's finished. I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to unload the mat. Again, I'm just going to turn it round just so that I can hopefully get everything in. So you should be able to see the two shapes on this piece of card. I can see the inner pierce line and the outer cut line. Just going to turn the mat over and just gently peel the mat away while I'm holding the card down, and that way hopefully it won't curl. Then I'm just going to turn it over and pop my shapes out. So now I've got a piece of thick basic white cardstock which I've cut down the middle on the 8 1/4 inch side, and I've scored it and folded it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to bring in my guillotine, bring in one of my stars, and I'm going to put this in the guillotine and cut it down the centre. So that's what I've got. And then I think I'm going to do the same with the circle, but I'm not just going to do it for a minute. So I'm just going to see how this looks first. So I'm going to stick the star on the edge of my card, like so. I'm just going to turn it over and I'm going to bring in some of my Tombow, which is our liquid adhesive. It'll just give me a little bit more wiggle room, and it will let me get near to the points of the star, because obviously they need to be stuck down because you don't want those lifting on your card. Just going to bring my silicone mat in and put this on here so that I don't get glue all over my cutting mat. And then I'm going to position this on the card like so. So that's how it's looking now. And then the circle, I'm not so sure whether I want to cut the circle in half or not, and add that on like so. And then I'm thinking that I'm going to bring in one of the little cute characters and have these on here. So I think I will cut the circle in half. So this was a 2 1/2 inch circle. So if I cut it at 1 1/4, that should be in half. It's not vital. So I'm thinking I might pop this like so, and then put one of these little characters like this. So I'm going to stick this down again with wet glue, just towards the edge. I need to bring my mat in again. And then this one I'm going to pop up, so I'm going to put dimensionals on this side and put wet glue on that side, because obviously this is more raised than this. So if I apply a little bit of wet glue here and bring in my dimensional, so I'll put a bigger one on his body and see if one of these little ones will go just up here. So let's zoom you in. So there's envelopes and like little letters with this kit as well. So what I might do is I might pop this in the corner, put the envelope down with a bit of wet glue, and just put a little bit of glue over that envelope and pop the letter. And then I'll bring in some, let's see what we got. Actually, I might use these. I've not used these for ages. These are the Elegant Faceted Gems, and these are from the Peony Garden Suite. So bring in my Take Your Pick tool, and if you've not seen this before, let me just zoom out. The Take Your Pick tool is like a multi tool. It's got a piercing tool on one end, but you can unlock it, and it's got a spatula on the other, so you can swap it around. But then it has this putty end. If you wind it up tightly, some of the putty will start to come out the end, and then you loosen it off to stop the putty from coming out. And then this just helps you pick up your, rhinestones or gems or whatever else. So I'll just put a couple of those on there. And that's today's card. Okay, so here are the ones I've made so far. So I've used a mixture of the different characters from the Snail Mail Designer Series paper. As I said, there'll be a link to how I did that at the end of this video. And then I've used the piercing kit to do the star and the circle. Put them all together, and I've used some of the little gems from the Peony Garden suite. So all the links will be on the blog post directly underneath this video. Just go to my website, go to the blog and look for this post and you'll find all the links. So I hope you liked that video. Please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't already do so, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.